Hey everybody, Barry Johns here, and this is Studio Talk. Hardware, outboard hardware, that analog stuff, in 2022 is so passe. No, you don't need that anymore. Everybody knows that today plugins are just as good as analog hardware. Only people kind of wasting their money or hardware, aficionado freaks, they're wasting all their money. You don't need hardware today, and everybody knows it. I can keep naming artist after artist, that made their number one song, in DAWs like Logic or Studio One or Reaper, or Ableton or whatever the different ones, and they did it all in the box in their bedroom. And so if they can do it, why in the world do I need hardware? Why do you need hardware today? Why are you wasting your money? I mean, think about it. Why waste the money if it's so easy? Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? I've done a lot of videos on this channel, and I've done a lot on plugins. I've done a lot on various DAWs, various audio interfaces, some microphones, and of course some, analog hardware units. I got quite a lot of videos out there, and I get a lot of comments. That's one thing about my videos. I tend to get a lot of comments from the users, and every once in a while, I'll get some guys out there at home, and they're sometimes maybe keyboard warriors to some degree, that will see the title of a video and not even really bother to kind of watch it, not taking their time to really find out, hey, what is this discussion really about, and kind of jump to conclusions before even giving the video a chance, and just start criticizing and a lot of those things. And so here's what I'd like to ask of folks like that today. Maybe you're on the fence about hardware. Maybe you're in the, hey, you're out of your freaking mind if you waste your money on that nonsense. Plugins are so much better. Or whether you're a hardware freak and you've completely moved away from it and you're obsessed with it, okay? I would ask that you just give me a few minutes of your time to kind of really talk through it. And especially if you're anti-hardware, can I ask you just to, hey, be objective for a second, give it a shot, really listen to the points made, pros and cons, and then come to your conclusion, but do so objectively. I don't want to have the same views on audio and the same level of experience and knowledge and understanding and practical application 6 months from now that I have today. I'm always in a pursuit to be better, to do everything I can in my life better and better and better. Let me bring this microphone down a little bit so I can kind of get in a little bit closer here. So, I always want to be better. I try really hard to do that. And so the only way I found to be able to do that is to be open-minded, to be objective, to listen if someone's got a legitimate argument that is counter to my particular opinion. My opinion can be changed very easily if you make a solid argument. You make a good case, okay, because I want to learn and I want to grow. And just like this channel is really all about teaching everything that I've learned, and I don't know everything. I'm not an expert on anything. But I've gained a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge along the years, and all I simply do is want to share it. That's all I want to do. And do you realize that a lot of the knowledge I've gotten, has come usually at the cost of making a lot of mistakes, really making bad decisions, bad choices, jumping head into something without taking the time to really know what it was truly about. And so, the school of hard knocks, a lot of my experience comes from that. But I would say just about as much of that experience and that knowledge comes from what I've learned from other people. When you find somebody that you really trust their judgment and they've got good experience, and so why wouldn't you want to listen to that person, whether it's me or whether I listen to other people? I think we all want to learn and grow. Now, does that mean that what I'm going to talk about today, does that mean I'm right? No, it doesn't mean I'm right. I think I am. I'm very confident for me I am. But so just give me a few minutes of your time and let's kind of really talk about this, okay? The first thing I would ask you to consider is the world's a big place. My video, my channel, my YouTube channel, has grown pretty quickly. But still to this day, more than 50% of my viewers are not from the United States, where I reside. And so they're from all over the world. And I think that's so amazing. And look, everybody out there, thank you very much for watching. I truly appreciate it. I really do. And so there's so many cultures, so many styles of music that are popular from place to place to place. And, a lot of people here seem to think everything is electronic based, or heavily synthesizer based, or EDM, and rap, of course, is real popular here in the States. I mean, these styles of music, and I enjoy all of these styles of music. They're popular all over the world too. But whereas here in the United States, we tend to be quite singular in our styles. You either fall into one camp or the other typically. And so I found that's not the case. And I learned that from a lot of my viewers who share a lot of questions and knowledge and experience back with me. So understand that the world's a big place. And even though you may not have a particular need or application for something, does that really mean that somebody else doesn't? Really? Kind of think about that for a second, okay? And so let's kind of really get into the nitty-gritty of one of the first things, that hardware is as good as plugins. And I will say that plugins are very good. I use a lot of plugins. Actually, when I'm mixing, the majority of my mix is in the box. I mean, the vast majority of it is in the box. For me, when I incorporate analog hardware, it's almost exclusively in the tracking. I try to capture that analog vibe on the way in, so I've already got that character on all of my tracks. The songs and music I do are primarily, analog. And so, my songs can benefit greatly from having that on there and having that flavor, whether that's, of course, external microphone preamps, whether it be, Neve, API, along those clones, probably the two most popular, Universal Audio, there's so many wonderful microphone preamps out there. And there's a lot of really great clone microphone preamps too. And so I have found that they give a kind of a dynamic to the song, some natural inherent distortion to some degree, some saturation, character. There's so many ways to describe it, and those are just my words. They don't have to be your words or how you would describe it. But that's how I do it. I don't tend to do a lot of it in mixing. I'll do some of it, but not a lot of it because it's really not that practical, because of having stems and things like that. And so, as regarding plugins, the majority of my work is done with plugins, and you've probably figured out already, especially by the thumbnail, I enjoy analog hardware. I enjoy it a lot. Does it mean that I think that you have to? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that at all. And so, so when you talk about plugins as good as analog, I will tell you, and this is just my opinion, we all have our different opinions, and this is something that's very subjective, but plugins are great. Plugins can do amazing things, and they give us the ability to be able to do things that, quite frankly, when I was in my 20s and 30s just was not practical, because everything back then was all analog. And so if you wanted 5 compressors on your drums, as an example, well, you had to own 5 hardware compressors. And so that got expensive very, very, very quickly. And the only box you were mixing into was probably a DAT, a 2-track DAT at the time, or maybe you're recording directly to CD. Or sometimes when you got really started out, you'd record a 4-track cassette. And so there are so many ways, but we've come so far, and plugins have too, and they're really, really, really great. But do they really sound as good as the hardware? A lot of people really believe this. A lot of people dig in and believe And I'll be honest with you, I don't buy that. So let's look at that logically for a second, if you don't mind. Just again, stay with me here. Look at that logically. Just think for a second. Well, let's go ponder over to Vintage King, probably the most well-known. If you've been doing this any time at all, you should probably be familiar with Vintage King. They're probably the number one supplier of assorted various amazing analog hardware. And they primarily are in the analog world. They're probably mostly in the analog world, a little bit of digital, but mostly analog. And so let's look at all the things up for grabs on their website. And gosh, look at all that variety. There's so many different pieces of gear across all of the gamut from price ranges, anywhere from $400 to $4,000 to even $10,000 and more. There's all kinds of things there. And if you look at this, there's so many different manufacturers. And so doesn't that kind of make you wonder a little bit? Are all these companies making this gear, are they completely clueless? Is it all smoke and mirrors? Is that what it is? And are people like me and other people who buy this hardware, are we idiots? Are we clueless? Or could there possibly be something to it? I wonder why people would spend that much money. It's hard for a business to stay in business if they're not selling products, and people don't tend to flush money down the drain because most of us doing this are not rich people. Maybe I'll win the Powerball tonight and be a billionaire, but I'm not counting on that. You know what I mean? So you could say, okay, well, Barry, that's Vintage King. They're known for hardware. So, of course, they're going to have a ton of that. Okay, fair point. All right, let's cruise on over to Sweetwater. Sweetwater is the largest online music company in the world that sells gear, right? Number one in the world and certainly number one in North America for sure. And so let's kind of take a look and see what they've got because they sell everything. They sell guitars, pedals, band instruments, synthesizers, recording interfaces, plugins, controllers, everything you could want. If you can't find it at Sweetwater, you're probably not likely to find it anywhere else for most things, especially most popular things. So let's take a look and see what they've got. Well, here you go again. Doesn't it kind of make you feel a little bit like you're back looking at Vintage King again? We kind of peruse through all of this various analog gear that they've got for sale. And let's think about it. A company like Sweetwater, they're not going to have a bunch of product on their website and in their catalogs if it's not moving. They're just not going to have that. And so they actually stock a great deal on their warehouse shelves. A lot of a big chunk of the gear they sell, and money sitting on a shelf costs money. You know what I'm saying here, my bro? Okay, you got me. All right. So really think about that. If there's nothing, if there's no value to this, why in the world would these companies be jeopardizing their business, whether they're an analog manufacturer? And let's face it, you've got great gear out there, anywhere from the low hundreds all the way up into the thousands and thousands of dollars. So regardless of what your budget is and how much money you've got to spend, there's always something out there for you to consider. Now, it's not all worthwhile. I'll give you that. But a lot of it is. A lot of people have stepped up their game here lately. And so if you don't seem to think that there's value to this, and if you honestly believe that people like me and all the gear manufacturers and these businesses and other people who enjoy analog hardware, if you honestly think that we've just got the wool pulled over our eyes and we're just telling ourselves what we want to hear, I don't know what to think about that, to be honest with you. I really don't know what to think about that. So I would encourage you to think about it. Now let's go on to the next big topic, and then we'll wrap this thing up. And that is this famous artist this and artist that and artist that. They made their number one hit song in their bedroom in Logic, as an example, using stock plugins and stock virtual instruments. And let me say, first of all, and I'll use Logic as a perfect example, the stock plugins in Logic, as well as most DAWs this day, are freaking outstanding, okay? You can do amazing, solid work with just that and not buy any more. And same thing for virtual instruments, especially for Logic and some other key players. The virtual instruments are phenomenal, very, 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 very good. And if you can't get creative and make music with those, then I would probably ask you to really think about where you get your inspiration from. Are there other textures and things that can do things somewhat better? Yeah, of course there are. But you can really do good stuff with just that. So don't think that you got to go out and buy anything else outside of that. You can do great work with that. So, but let's talk about these artists who do that, and because a lot of people like to talk about that. A lot of people really, really, really like to talk about that. And the reality is that's not the way things work. It's never worked that way from recording companies and everything like that. If you're gonna have a number one hit, especially more than one, and be have a career in this, you're going to be working with a record company, and that record company, yes, and they will often utilize maybe some of the tracks that they did, but oftentimes they're going to be re-recorded or redone in other ways because let's face it, that's the role of a producer in modern music and has been for quite a few decades now. And that's really the shaper of the song, really help you do the arrangement, how to get more excitement out of it, maybe do certain key changes. Almost never, and I literally mean almost never, does a song that the artist brings in end up being remotely close to the same song when it comes out and what you hear. And oftentimes, they're bringing in, especially if you're not a band playing your own instruments and things like that, it's popular in pop and country and other things like that. They're going to bring in session players and that kind of stuff to come in and play those parts and do those other things and redo what you've done. Yeah, are you going to keep the core vibe of that song? Of course you are. But I think you'd be naive to think that literally what someone created in their home, for the most part, okay, is exactly what you're hearing on the radio. That's not likely. For goodness sakes, even in the mastering aspect of it, it's all through analog gear. So let's just say you can find an example of where that's true, because we can always find examples to back up our point, but that really doesn't matter. Finding a few examples really never matters. It's really what is the majority. You have to look at it almost like a pie chart, right? And yeah, we can often find whatever our point we're trying to make, we can find examples, but if you're looking at a pie chart, it's like a teeny bitty little slice there. You ain't gonna get full on that, right? The vast majority's not like that. So I would ask you to consider that too. And then finally, a lot of people talked about, people like Michael Brower and some other people where they've just gone to completely mixing in the box. And they have. That's a true statement. They have. And they're great at what they do. They're amazing at what they do. I love those guys that do that. You're seeing a lot of that and getting rid of the hardware for mixing. Keep in mind, that's for mixing. There haven't been situations where the same person who's mixing a song was the same recording engineer on that song who actually tracked all of that. That hasn't happened really since the 70s as a matter of practice. And so usually the song is recorded in the studio and it's done by a recording engineer with the guidance of the producer. And then all those tracks will be sent out for somebody like Chris Lord-Alge or somebody like that to mix them, okay? And so keep in mind, all of those tracks were recorded to some of the finest microphones, some of the most amazing microphone preamps, through incredible compression and incredible EQ, depending on the instrument for EQ, that's available today. And so that's where you're getting that vibe. When you track like that, if you track properly, that song really should just about mix itself. It really shouldn't need much. And you really should never need to fix anything. So I would just ask that you consider those things. If you're still adamant about it and you disagree with me, let me know down below. But before we get to that, if you like this particular video, and I've got a lot more out there, I encourage you to go watch. Do me a favor, hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell. Help me grow this channel. Really like to keep going with that. But, let me know in the comments down below. But all I ask, what inspired this video is there's some people out there that just want to be total jerks about it. They just want to shove in their point and make sure they get it across. And if you're one of those people, and if you think you ever hurt my feelings or you ruffle my feathers, it's really not possible. It's just not possible. And by the time at my stage in life, you don't sweat the small stuff anymore. You don't let that silly nonsense get to you. But I do find it a little disheartening sometimes that some folks feel the need that they've got to attack somebody because they have a different opinion than yours. That's a little hard to understand. And so if you're the type of person who does that and you want to attack me, and usually I'll let you do it 2 or 3 times, but after that, I'm not going to put up with that anymore, and I'm going to delete you, okay? And so I don't like doing that. I do very little of it, but I think it's important to understand that. So if you're going to make an argument, hey, state your case. Let's just have a healthy debate back and forth. Let's talk back and forth. It's important. That's how you learn. It's how I learn. I listen. I've always found it's better. You learn more in life if you spend more time listening than you do talking. That's just my 2 cents. You can take it or leave it. Till next time, hope every one of you have a great day. Whether you're mixing totally in the box or whether you're like my friends out there that are in analog heaven, okay? Whatever you do, just enjoy what you're doing, and hopefully you're creating music that'll make a difference in somebody else's life. Put a smile on their face, a tear in their eye, or remind them of something special or sometimes something sad in their life. I hope you do it well. Till next time, have a great day. Bye-bye.